it definitely takes me a while to get things out sometimes, and the only way I can do it is in a sort of free-flowing, energetic expenditure, which doesn't usually lend itself well to having a conversation. As much as I like having a conversation and what I hear inspires me to say what comes next, actually, if there are things that I want to say and want to have an opportunity to explore, then it makes more sense I do it like this so that there's no interruption. When I spoke to Lisa last night and heard her talk about how she'd been trying to reach Emma and no response, so she didn't know whether to get into her pajamas and start to relax for the evening, because at any moment she might hear from her and she might have to go pick her up, all of this uncertainty. And in her unconditional, continuously loving, always giving state, she's always ready to do that, even if she'd got changed and had settled down and wanted to watch something and get a glass of wine out, and then she hears from Emma and Emma wants her to come and pick her up, she'll go. And so it sort of struck me as, where is Lisa in all this? Where does Lisa fit in? Lisa is just a giver, just there for others. And when she has time, when it works out that she does get time and no one wants anything from her or no one needs anything from her, then it's a blessing. It's like, it's so infrequent that she gets to really unwind, really relax. It would be perfect time, and I almost gave it to her for her to have use of the tincture, for her to have her own tincture to take in those moments, so that she gets to experience something differently, feel at peace in a way that normally you would need a couple of weeks on your own, say, to get. You could have this feeling of absolute contentedness. You could find it in that night. But I have heard that Emma is manipulative, and it would. When I heard that Lisa couldn't settle, how do you let go? How do you let go so that you can go, okay, well, I've reached out to her, I'm just going to get changed and start to watch something and have a glass of wine, have a bath, get ready for bed, and let go of the idea that at any moment you will change those plans. You will give up, surrender what it is that you're doing for her, because that's what you do and you love her, and maybe deep down you want to spend time with her. Maybe you miss her. You want that connection. She's your daughter. So you're willing to sacrifice anything to have that. You wouldn't, no, I'm not coming to get you tonight, Emma. Look, it's already late. I'm gonna watch a couple of episodes of Breaking Bad. I've had a glass or two of wine. Answer your phone when I text you then. Don't leave it so long so that I make this decision. And maybe she would change. Maybe she would do it differently. And if you were to find a way to actually let go of her, and it is possible to let go of her, meaning that you're not wondering about her, you're not thinking about her, and empathically, you're not feeling her. Because I used to feel Emaly, that it was almost like she was with me constantly. When I am loving, when I'm in love with, when I'm connected to somebody, I sort of feel them all the time. They're just with me. That I'm often thinking about them as a result, or maybe because, I don't know, but they're with me. There is no escape, in a sense. I don't want there to be. I want that connection. I want to feel it. It feels very real. It feels like it's the thing that I've been missing all this time. I'm able to love, I'm able to give, I'm able to think and imagine and be creative and come up with ideas that benefit them, and I want that, and I want to see them smile, and I like that, and so on. And it feels great. But I tend to get lost along the way, so that's all I can do, and that anything else I can't choose because I feel bad, guilty, I feel I'm letting someone down. It's just I can't choose it because it seems selfish. It's like I'm putting myself before others, and that's just not how it works. And yet, it is how it works. It is okay for me to choose to do what works for me without having to think about whether or not someone else will come to a different conclusion, have a different kind of thought, be affected, I don't have to think that way. It's not my responsibility. That I can choose to make a choice that benefits me and just me, that's not naturally, wouldn't never happen by default, cause someone else to suffer intentionally, of course not. But I can just let go of having to have thoughts about what other people might be doing or who they are or what they're thinking or what they're wanting or what they're expecting or anything like that, no matter who it is, and just do my own thing. And I started to realize with Emaly, because I had become very attached to her and I was very in her life and always wanted to know the details and had an opinion and expressed it and was doing what I thought was right for her and giving her things and thinking about her and making it easier for her, guiding her, and all of this stuff that I thought as a father, that I felt as a father, learning to love as a father, I discovered I was able to give her. I forgot that actually she has to be her own person. Just as I had to be my own person with Mum, who was trying to do the same thing with me. And I noticed when I started to realize that actually it wasn't right, that I was crowding her and oppressing her and interfering with her and expecting things from her, and I'd become so used to it, I realized I had to withdraw. But I couldn't withdraw by leaving, by being somewhere else, by being with other people, by going to work, by doing other things that allowed me to be fully in the moment with other people and let her be her with somebody else. I was with her all the time. I was around her all the time. I was a stay-at-home dad. We were going to home educate her, so it was too much. And it was too much for me, and I didn't know how to let her go without it seeming like I no longer cared, because that can be what it looks like. That I shifted into doing what I felt worked for me, what I needed to do for me, what I thought was the right thing for me. And to do it without carrying her, to stop carrying her, to let go of her so that she was her own person, free to do it her own way, and not ignore her, not because the moment that I would see her, the moment she would speak to me, I was ready to be him again. I was ready to be there, receptive, willing. And slowly as I practiced that, then there were times when I wasn't, when actually I felt like it would be better if I didn't do that for her, that it was better that she did it for herself, that actually it was no longer something I felt good about doing. I had started to become me, that I was letting go of them, that it was over, it was done, it had been over for quite a while. I was letting go of Sarah for sure, but still not leaving the relationship. It needed Sarah to do that. Emaly by that point had already begun living her own life. She wasn't living at home. She was working and having relationships and just getting on with it. And I realized that at some point I'm going to have to leave. It's going to have to happen. I'm not supposed to be here somehow. It's like I can't fit. I don't fit. I tried. I gave up. I surrendered. I felt like I was being unconditional. I felt like I understood loving as a father. But I also got obsessed with it in a sense. I got addicted to it. That by having her, feeling her need for me and filling that need, and then imposing or revealing my ideas about what should happen next for her, my opinion, and giving it in a way that made it difficult not to accept it, because I found it difficult for it not to be accepted. So I would argue for it or insist upon it, and that interfered with her natural way of being. The very thing that I had attempted to give to her, which I had given to her, but was now interfering with, because I couldn't quite let go properly. I couldn't give her the autonomy and the feeling of support without judgment and without opinion that I wanted to give. I was attached. I now needed her. Because without her, without this, my one thing, my one love, my one focus, I didn't have Sarah. I wasn't able to give it to Sarah. We had known for a long time, or I had known for a long time, that I couldn't be with her in the way that I thought I could. There was nothing else. There was no job. There were no friends, not really. There was the beautiful place of where I was living. There was walks, and there was nature, and there was the sea, and there was freedom. There was freedom to explore my inner world. There was freedom to go into the altered state, to write. I was living my ideal life, and I had a partner who was looking after me, who was sharing the things, even though we weren't getting on. We weren't able to be together. We were just Emaly's parents, and while she needed us to be, that was all that needed to be there. But obviously it wasn't. It wasn't all that was needed. It would have been much better if we had been loving parents, as a good example of a strong relationship. It would even have been better if we'd split and found 2 new relationships and given Emaly 2 separate homes so she could come and go between them if she wanted, to give her more freedom, and that it would have changed me to have somebody that I could actually be with, and it would have made Sarah happier to have been with somebody that she felt. But I could never have let that happen. I still felt like I wanted Sarah. I still felt like Sarah was my partner. It was a very messed up time in many ways, but a lot of it was my need for them, that I had become so used to having the emotional support, especially from Sarah, the physical support, especially from Sarah, that I didn't want to go back to having to do those things for myself. Anything was better than that, or so I thought. And it was only when I was effectively forced into choosing to live in my van, which made the most sense because it was there. I didn't have to find somewhere else to live and try to, find an income that would allow me to live there or have support from the system and so on. I could just move into my van, owned and clean and outright by me, and had enough, although I would find some work eventually, but I had enough to support myself in it by living very simply, by not driving around too much, by just finding somewhere that I could be and learning how to be in the van there. And it benefited me a great deal, even though I kind of went into it kicking and screaming. I absolutely could not see how I was going to deal with this incredibly difficult shift and challenge of living a new kind of life, being able to go into the wilderness and experience nature in all its glory and silence and power and rain, and be alone in it and write things and feel things and see things that I would never have done otherwise. And yet I dragged my nails, I went into it kicking and screaming. So much was I attached to, holding on to what was not working, what needed to end. I've been guilty of that many times in my life. So I see Lisa, and she's just a loving, kind... I don't really know Lisa. I mean, I don't know what she does or how she lives. I've never even been to her house. I hardly see her. We hardly talk. And yet she's the most realist person I know here. There are aspects of her that reminded me of Justine when I first met her again. And it had been over 30 years since I'd seen her. And yet, she's the closest. I feel the closest to her, even though I don't understand her, I don't get her, I don't really understand people. And I used to. And the strange thing is that just yesterday, Mum found a bag of old documents and photographs, and in it was a letter that I had written from Israel when I was first on kibbutz. So it was almost 30 years ago. And she decided to read it. And it was so strange to hear it because I didn't recognize him. I know I had the experiences that I remember. I wrote them down. I can feel that person. Yet the person who wrote that letter to her, what he said in it, how he spoke, just somebody else. No connection to him at all. Very, very bizarre for me to hear that. And yesterday, I got it out again. So she read it the day before yesterday. So yesterday I got it out again and I read it myself. In my own voice, in my own head, rather than hers. I was like that. That's how I said things. That's what I talked about. That I wrote to her that way. It seemed hard to imagine, but there was the evidence right in front of me. I used to be somebody who spoke that way, thought that way, voiced it like that. If I read what I wrote about my time in Israel, it makes perfect sense to me. I get him. I can recognize him. I feel connected to him. But I don't feel connected to the guy who wrote that letter. I suddenly felt I wanted to free Lisa. I wanted Lisa to have that same sense of feeling that it was okay for her to do what it is she wants. It was okay for her to take more time for herself, but not have to feel bad or guilty or selfish, not have to beat herself up about it, not have to be really uncomfortable with the idea that it's okay for her to do that, and not immediately drop everything to make somebody else happy or comfortable. I can't really understand that kind of sacrifice, even though I have at times given it. It always ends badly for me. At some point, I always come to realize that I am losing the very thing that I need to keep. The objectivity, the detachment, the ability to see what's there and be able to give something that's far more valid, far more needed than what people previously thought would be, that what you normally give, what's normally given. And it's very difficult to accept that not being given and then not see it as rejection, indifference. Just don't care. And I understand why it would be seen like that. And sometimes it is like that to some degree, but it isn't exactly like that. It's more that I'm now letting you do it your way. I'm not interfering. I'm not imposing. I'm not even offering any thought in the moment, randomly appearing in a way that you ought to consider. I'm just saying how you're doing it is fine. Go on and carry on doing it in whatever way you feel you need to. It doesn't mean I don't care about you or even want to spend time with you. It just means that I can't want that. I can't desire it. I can't have these kind of intentions or agendas and somehow have to manipulate it into being in some way, some kind of message. Well, what do I say in it? What do I really want? Why am I doing this? Why do I want company? Why am I looking for that? What does it say about me? What do I want from her? And it becomes so complicated that often it's just easier to recognize that I'll just let it be. I'll just let things be as they are right now. However it is, I'll allow it to be. And if something comes to me, if something is offered to me, I'll open to it. But of course, to you, it looks like I'm expecting you to do all the work. You've got to come up with the ideas. You've got to imagine it. You've got to suggest it. You've got to make the effort. I don't want to do anything. And if you don't make the effort, then nothing happens. It's very easy for you to see it that way. And in many ways, you would be right. That's sort of what's happening. But it isn't. It's that I'm struggling with how to reach out to you in an authentic way. I have to be sure of my motives. I have to understand where I'm coming from, because in my presence at this time, I can say things and it can change things and it can cause thoughts to be considered. Now, I want that to be a positive experience. It's a good, and there should be great benefit from it. But sometimes that's not what has happened in the past. And I have to own that too. I don't want to get into a state where I'm insisting and standing in my ground. Then I've slipped into ego. And now I'm trying to control it. And I want to prevail and win. And that's not why I do what I do. That's not my intention. That sometimes even the smallest desire to deviate from what is met with a feeling of you can't do that. If you do that, then you're taking control of something that you've given over, you've surrendered to. I have felt most real when I have let the universe, God, the source, whatever you want to call it, however you see it, move me, guide me, show me, reveal to me what I need to see, what it is ideas, inspirations, insights that arrive that I can put into practice, and I can do so without doubt. I can just trust, have faith that what is happening is what has to happen. I'm loath to use the word meant to happen, because that sort of implies there is no free will. It's destined. Everything is destiny. It's all a path. But to some degree that is true. And that the path itself, when there is alignment with it, there is no question that that's what I want. It's a complete collaboration. It's not a resistance. It's the best thing. It's by far the best thing. It's better than I could ever have imagined. It's far better than anything I did imagine. And the only way that works is I've got to get out of the way. I have to be out of the way enough so that that can come through, and that I can recognize it and let it out, act on it, rather than just acknowledge it, write about it, record it, and then file it away. Kind of like this. Instead of, okay, I've got this feeling. I tried this last night. I've got this feeling. I was talking out loud, making an audio recording. I hadn't set up the video. It didn't feel like it was right. And suddenly I'm trying to call Lisa, and it's not straightforward. And even when, as I let it ring, and it rings and it rings, I go to put it off. Just as I put it off, she answers. Did she answer? Did I put it off? I try it again, and then we actually have the conversation that I felt like I wanted to do now. That instead of just make this a recording, have a go, set up the recorder, do this kind of talking, explore in my own time, I do it with her. I say a lot of things. I'm talking about mum, and there's just been bad news. It's not good. You know, she may not have that much longer, and we're talking about how I'm making it easier for her, making it easier for her to deal with the symptoms that come in the moment. That this idea of cancer and this heaviness of this disease that somehow has to be let go of. This heaviness of what does it mean, impending death, approaching demise, and you've got to let go of all this to find peace. because you're never going to figure it out. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to fight and try to know, and I need to understand. And she has fear. But there's no reason to be afraid, because there's nothing she can be afraid of. It doesn't have to be something she has to be afraid of. It is inevitable. It makes more sense to be moving towards it, open to its arrival, rather than hiding in the corner and hoping it doesn't see you. And to make that kind of a conversation, to have that kind of a thing on the phone, to even the possibility of Lisa coming round here so that I can talk to her like this, kind of like I would talk to Nicola when we're together on our own. I can just let it out and say things and she listens. Lisa is also a talker, and I don't know, it's a strange thing about somehow life is not having that. I'm not making it happen. I'm not contacting her. Come round. What are you doing today? Come over. How about I'll come round to you? Give me your address. I'll come round see you. Just tell me when you're in, when you think you're going to be in by yourself, and I'll come around and see you. All of these things normal people do. People who want to spend time with each other, people who care, love each other, who are connected, who are friends. You spend time with people. I don't. I only spend time with Mum, and I have moments with those people who come to see Mum, and I have some few moments with Nicola and Lisa, usually when they're here to see Mum, and in between that I talk to myself. And I'm always willing to listen to myself when I talk. It's never a problem for me to. Occasionally I go, I know what, stop talking. It's too much, you've been talking too much, it's enough already. And I go back into a much more quiet, unexpressive state. I would do this moving about. If I had a wireless microphone, which is not a bad idea, I would be able to move about because I wouldn't be tied to a little cable. Or if I had a Bluetooth lapel microphone, something that allowed me to move about rather than be restricted to a cable, then I would be more active. I would be moving about much more like you might see a stand-up on the stage walk about saying things. It actually makes the expression come out differently, and I prefer it. Sitting in the chair is fine, it's comfortable, especially if I'm talking for ages. I could get up, I could sit down, just like stand-ups might do on stage. They'll have a chair there, they'll sit down in it, they'll get up, they'll sit, they'll drink. I like all that. It feels natural to me to do that. The only thing that makes it not real is that I'm never doing it in front of an audience. That if this is me, I'm my own audience. There's a picture of me, so I'm technically talking to the picture, that's the audience. The camera's not me. And then sometimes I'll listen to this, I'll put it on and I'll watch it, and it will make me feel very peaceful, so that actually the feeling of having expressed it is an emptiness. There's an emptiness that has come from it. And I sense authenticity. I know I've spoken the truth. That's my voice. That's the voice that makes sense to me. And I feel good about it. I might even start to imagine I can upload it. I'll get it up there. It's not straightforward. I can't do it here. We don't have, the internet's just way too slow for uploading anything like that. And I never seem to find my way anywhere. I'm not motivated to take a walk to Starbucks like I would have done when I was in America and go and make use of their faster speeds, or go round to somebody who has faster internet. I'm sure Lisa does. It's as if I'm not ready to upload these things. I'm not ready to share these things. I don't know. In the moment of creation, it all makes sense. Afterwards, when I'm no longer in the state of creating, then it's different. It's changed. And I feel somehow that if I reveal it, if I let people experience it, then whether I like it or not, I'm opening to whatever it is they feel about it. I'm looking without really looking for it, because I know when I get it how it makes me feel. approval, enjoyment, laughter. I'm looking for them to get and be connected to what it is I've said. But in order to have that side of the coin, I have to allow for the other side of the coin, which is those who have a different perspective, have a negative response, don't see, don't get, don't like, don't appreciate, but are able to say so. And I have to be, in order to not be affected by them, I have to not be affected by them, which means I have to not be looking or needing any of that, which often leads me to not needing to share it at all, because then I don't have to get any kind of response. I don't need anything. I've expressed it, I've got it out, it exists, and it can technically be shared at any point. Yeah. Done. I've let go. I'm not attached. I've lost the feeling of, if I say something, then I can carry on chopping wood and carrying water and getting on with my life. But there's a part of me that's always wondering whether I'll receive a response, what that might be. And then if I do receive a response, it's quite powerful for me. It's a commitment to opening myself up in a way that I can't really shut it down again once it comes out. Once it starts coming out, if people start to experience it in a way that means that it has a positive reaction, then it's only going to encourage me. If it doesn't, it might encourage me to disappear. That I get so affected that, again, what I thought was really good, that I'm offering my uniqueness, my insight, my perspective, and if I exist just like everybody else, and if I exist, then there must be a reason for me to exist. So there must be somebody out there who likes, gets, wants, recognizes, realizes from it, that I don't keep finding I'm alone again, that there was no point to it, that actually all of this is really just for me, that anything I experience is just my own realization, but everybody else has got to find it themselves. And if I try to give them something they don't already have, they don't see it that way. It comes across in a different way. They see me as somebody else, that I'm actually doing something for me. It's all about me. I don't care about them. I'm trying to get something from them. They can be suspicious. I understand, because in the past I have done things like that. I have made people suspicious of me. I have manipulated and controlled and made things happen that I felt would benefit me, that would be of use to me, because I'm making my way through this life. This is my life, and I'm trying to do it the best way I know how. And if I can make something happen that I think will benefit me, not intentionally have you get hurt, suffer, so that I gain, but sometimes people get hurt by what other people do just because they don't necessarily understand what their motives are, or they don't get what's taking place. They've got issues that interfere with it themselves. We've all got shit to deal with. I have to find a way. I have to live in a way that allows me to be in the world as me without being affected by what other people say or think or do. And I never used to be. I have become far more sensitive than I used to be. And I used to be very sensitive. But I've been through a long period in my life where nothing touched me. I was absolutely above it. That whatever happened in the physical world, in the phenomenal conditioned thinking reality that exists, was okay. That I could accept. And just either move towards or move away, but not invalidate, not have to have an opinion, not have to have a preference, be able to stay in this moment and it be okay. It be okay just as it is. And actually start to see that. Not just have faith, everything will be all right in the future, God knows, God works in mysterious ways. No, actually see the ramifications of it. Understand the connecting. See the dots. See the past. See how it can project into the future. Know it. And that's how I used to feel. in Israel. And I knew people, I connected with people in a way that just made sense. I knew them. I knew what to say to them. I knew how to respond to what they said to that. I knew how to help them. I watched them be helped. Now, of late, I don't know people. I don't understand them. I get Lisa, I can feel this huge heart that she has, but I can't connect to it. Can't be with it. I can't contain it because I can't imagine it, and I can't do this in my head. It has to be based on actual experience, what happens, and very little happens. So there's very little for me to work with, which tells me I'm not supposed to. I'm not supposed to have an idea of who she is. I'm just, or who anyone is. I'm just supposed to deal with what happens in the moment I may have experience with them. I don't know who I'm going to be, what's going to turn up, what feeling, what idea, what connectiveness, what experience will take place in this moment with that person. It's not straightforward. And so I have to allow for that rather than decide what's going to happen, rather than have an agenda and make it so. It's too mental. It has too much conditioning to it, too much intention. I can feel it, I can imagine what I'd like to happen, what I would like, how this moment would feel great if it was like this, and then let go of like this or anything and just hold that feeling of how it feels when I imagine it in this moment like this. So that's something far better, in a sense, far more unimaginable can come, and I'm not interfering with it by insisting that it should look like this, how I imagined it last week or last month. I'm still holding on to that idea. I'm trying to make it happen. I've got this in place and I'm going to do that next. So I'm just in this thought construct that I feel I need to do, that I'm following my idea. Sometimes I do follow ideas like that, but I'm very ready to let go because I'm not needing to insist. Just because I've started, I have to finish. Just because I've imagined it, that's how it ought to be. That I ought to be enjoying, I ought to have that enjoyment feeling, that feeling of making a difference, of doing the right thing, of getting it right, of making it work, of seeing the truth of reality and just allowing myself to travel along it. And we're in partnership, we're doing it together, and we're doing it with everybody. We're all doing it together. We're all doing this together. We're all in the river. It just feels like at times we're all in separate rivers, when actually we're all in the same river. But what does that actually mean? It could be that I'm just dealing with a kind of depression, that I have suppressed myself and made small myself to fit into this world, this small part of the world, to offer my mum some kind of support that makes it easier for her to go through this transition process, slowly letting go of who she's known herself to be, the conditioned thinking, the thoughts, the repetitive actions that, in a sense, define her through believing that the ego structure is a real thing. And somehow the best way for me to do that is in a state of non-attachment, so that I can offer her honest advice, honest action, not based on sentimentality or emotionality or need, that somehow I need to keep her alive because she supports me physically and I need that to stay. Nothing must ever change. One thing that we know for sure, everything changes. Everything always changes. Everything is always changing, all moment by moment by moment. We can make efforts to hold on to it, but eventually it's going to change. And there's nothing you can do about it. It makes more sense to be open to change, to embrace change, to recognize change as having great value, and not hold on to the old long enough to have to invalidate it first before you'll let something new in. That actually it's all okay. It's all building on each other. It's all growing from what went before. I just don't have to carry it. I don't have to hold on to it. I'm not responsible for everything that's happened. My only responsibility is to understand things that have taken place so that I can ensure that mistakes, if you like, things that I wouldn't do again, don't happen again. Even if I've learnt and benefited from those mistakes, making them in a sense not mistakes because I benefited from them, therefore they must have been necessary. But that what is happening is okay. It's meant to be like this. It has to be like this. It couldn't be anything other than this. That the experiences, the thoughts, the ideas, the actions, the feelings all make it like this. So if it's to be different, then I have to be different. I have to be different first, internally, in order for the external to be different. And even if it doesn't look different, how I respond to it determines whether I am different. And then it could become different, simply because those responses are now different. That if I am in a positive state, that if nothing that's happening makes me have to resist it because I feel like it shouldn't be like this, it's not supposed to happen this way, in effect make myself an enemy of the present moment, then I start to collaborate with the present moment. The present moment starts to give me experiences that I can deal with and accept in a much more profound way, bringing me back to God, bringing me back to source, bringing me back to presence. And there's nothing else that I want. There's nothing else that matters more than feeling what I call God, the universe, all that is, the divine, whatever and however you feel to call it, that makes sense to you, to have that with me and feel it there all the time. That's all that matters to me. That's all that I've ever been looking for, even if I have got distracted along the way by suddenly wanting something phenomenal, some human thing, some physical thing, and making it important, making it matter more than that. In effect, saying, I don't want that, I want this thing, and I want more of it, and well, there's that as well I want. And it can even be something as simple as just having something to eat and really enjoying the thing, or going out just to get that one thing because I really fancy it. Forgetting ideas of health and nutrition and all of the more enlightened ways of looking at consuming food, and just enjoying it for its own pleasure, for the sake of how it makes me feel, that I like it, it tastes nice. The phenomenal world, which can become very, very real. And if I allow myself to have physical intimacy with another person, if I have desire for it, or if I have openness to it and encourage it, and then it is offered to me, that can take me down a very deep hole, and it can take me a long time to come back out of it and understand what it is I do when I do that. How affecting, how interfering in many ways it is. There may be things to learn, and obviously if I've already done those things, as I have many times, I can definitely, given time, highlight all the things that I benefited from in having that experience. No experience is ever wasted, none. But it doesn't mean I have to repeat the same experience if I've already understood the lesson. It doesn't mean I have to do the class again. Once I've understood the lesson, I've got it, I'm ready for a more advanced stage. Life is a school. I was shown that when I first arrived in Israel, how much life is a school, and that I'm having and have been having very specific lessons, which we all are. And the less distraction, the less I am distracted, the more I realize that those things are a distraction, and bring everything into this moment, still it down, small it, make it easier to deal with. So it opens up more. I see it more, and I begin to learn again how to let that out, how to let it through, how not to get in the way, and how to feel the love, how to express the love, how to feel the love, how to give the love, how to be the love.